So today we're going to be talking about a very controversial topic, which is going beyond unicorn. Um, the true magic of of actually going beyond unicorn. That's what we're going to be talking about today. When I say the word unicorn, what image comes to your mind? The mythical, magical, and something rare, something spectacular, right? In the startup world, we're obsessed with the word unicorn and unicorn companies. Unicorn companies are those companies that are generally valued at over $1 billion. It's thrilling, it's glamorous, but today, let's step back from that fantasy because today, let's ask ourselves, are unicorns really the best thing we should chase? Or is there something far more magical waiting beyond the unicorn? So, the first section, we're going to be talking about the unicorn obsession and its true cost. In India, we have more than 110 unicorns. We are the third largest unicorn community globally. Every media outlet, every investor, every entrepreneur is just dazzled by these billion-dollar valuations. We're proud, of course, we are, but what about the hidden price that we all have to pay for building these unicorns? Let me tell you one very interesting story of a recent startup. It's an automobile startup that really went to a toss. A young, ambitious startup founder, and in their frantic chase of becoming a unicorn, they inflated revenues. They created fictitious garages because valuation became the most and the ultimate important factor when it came to building a unicorn, and not the actual value creation system, which is valuing and taking care of your customers. A lot of jobs were lost. A lot of trust got destroyed because of this particular startup in the ecosystem. But here is the harsh truth. The unicorn mindset can drive even good people to ethical compromises. In the next section, I am going to be talking about the human side of chasing these unicorns. But what about the personal cost? Before we talk about the unicorns, let's talk about the personal cost, because let's talk about one of the most important topics, which is mental health for a second. In a recent study, nearly 70% of the startup employees reported severe anxiety. Nitin Kamath, founder of Zerodha, profitable, right? Bootstrap. Everyone had heard about this founder and this company. Very successful, publicly shared that he suffered a mild stroke at the age of 40. What's the point of you building a unicorn, getting obsessed about making money, but at the end of the day, you're lying in your bedridden, right? So it's very important that he confessed something profound, that valuations are not the real success in life. The real success is sustainable, ethical growth without sacrificing your health and your happiness. So chasing unicorn status isn't just exhausting, it can literally be life-threatening. We've also seen some recent stories about some recent startup founders actually losing their life just because of this mental pressure, mental health. So it's very important for us to really understand that life goes beyond building unicorns. It's about your health, your prosperity, and more importantly, your mental health, which is something extremely, extremely important when you're building your startup. In the next section, I'm going to be talking about why do we even still celebrate unicorns, right? So building a unicorn is actually taking money from investors, and it's one of the biggest form of debt that you can take. Why do we celebrate taking other people's money when it's one of the biggest liability of your life? That's a thought-provoking question that I think everyone should think about. So why do we keep celebrating unicorns? The media, investors, and our own cultural narratives condition us to do this. Every time we raise capital, we are bound to go out there and talk about how amazing and incredible it is that we had secured money. But behind the scene, we don't really realize that we have actually taken a lot of debt. We have taken someone's money, right? And that comes with a lot of cost, and you pay that heavy cost with your mental health. We applaud, right? We applaud those founders who raise capital. We applaud them who have built those overnight successes that we keep hearing about, ignoring the truth that every single overnight success has taken at least a decade of constant efforts. We forget that 90% of the startups fail within the first 5 years of operating their business. Yet, we lionize the 1% unicorns that are feeding the illusion that this extreme rarity is so normal that each one of you can actually build that unicorn. Great thought process, but is it actually practical? Can we go beyond that and think about building something more sustainable? That's something that we all have to start thinking about. Achieving these even desirable results. But does it have all it takes to be there? We'll be talking about the next section, which is probably one of my most favorite talks that I often do, which is instead of building a unicorn, you should be building a zebra. And I'm going to talk about why zebra in just a moment. And why zebras and camels, they are far more sustainable. While I do this talk, just start imagining about zebras and camels, because the next few things that I'm going to talk about will make it far more relatable for all of you. Again, or imagine these animals, real, sustainable, cooperative. Zebra generally symbolizes what startup is all about, which is the purpose and a balance of profit with purpose, right? They operate in packs, which is what startups need to do. If you think one single founder can ever build this mythical creature, unicorn, that's just not possible. It is a group of collective people that make it possible, right? It's a collective group of community of people who build something incredible. Be it even building a dam, for an example, right? You need those right set of peoples to combine, think together, and build something incredible. Extremely important. And that's what you do. And that's exactly how zebras operate, right? This entire winter funding on top of that is a big problem. So they grow sturdily, they grow sustainably, they grow profitably. I'm going to take examples of two such amazing, incredible companies that you might have heard about. The first one is known as Zoho, and second one is known as Zerodha. Two iconic Indian startups. They are essentially the camels and zebras of the Indian startup ecosystem. They both have built a billion-dollar business without any external funding, focusing relentlessly on sustainability and profitability from day one of operating their business. They choose to be real animals and not this mythical unicorn that none of us has ever seen in our entire life, right? So, and guess what? They succeeded. They succeeded because they built the right team. They chose the path of struggle. They chose the path of sustainability, and they took time to building the right set of company, right? Consider Zoho, founded by Sridhar Vembu. He famously rejected VC fundings, quietly built a world-class software solution, and is an inspiration to millions and millions of entrepreneurs like us. He was able to not only build a unicorn in the form of valuation, but in the form of actual revenue, the actual transactions, right? And entirely bootstrap, which means if they can do it, you can, everyone sitting over here has the capability of doing it. But in order for you to do that, you need to step away from all the media hypes everything that's happening, you have to stay away from that and just focus on one thing, which is how can you provide a lot of value to your customers, because at the end of the day, it's your customers that make you valuable, right? But for that, you have to start understanding how can you create value for your customers in every single form where they become obsessed about your product or services that you're offering. Today, companies like Zoho, they employ thousands of people globally, building that amazing community. One of the rarest companies that have transformed a local community where villages got adopted, and those villages were transformed into something incredible, into a national global hub, right? That's what can happen if you choose the sustainable path to building a world-class solution and world-class company. Think of Zerodha again, right? They are India's largest stockbroker, profitable from year one. Founder Nitin Kamath, he always advises entrepreneurs very openly that don't chase valuation. It's very important. Chase real profits. Chase real sustainability. Very important. These companies have discovered a deeper truth about success, and success isn't defined by $1 billion valuation. And this is where you go beyond building unicorns, right? By building a genuinely true company that focuses on their customers. It focuses on just providing real value to their customers. And that is what creates an absolutely real impact. So in the last sections, I'm going to be talking about some unpopular truths, right? The real magic of failure. So let's talk about something we rarely celebrate, which is failure, right? Failure teaches us far more valuable lessons than overnight unicorn success. By the way, you can all go and just read about other companies' failure. That's going to teach you far more than any other education in your life, right? Because each failure has got a lot of deep meaning to it. So if you really want to succeed at every stage of your life, try and read more of failure stories than success stories, because in every failure, there is so much valuable lessons that you're going to get that you might not get out of those success stories. So I'm going to talk about this amazing company known as MailChimp, one of the biggest bootstrap company till date, I think, which got sold for billions of dollars recently, right? So the American email giant sold their company for approximately $12 billion. Never took a single rupee from VCs. No funding, nothing. Founders stayed small, lean. They started this venture as a side hustle. So each one of you sitting over here, even if you're doing something today, you can all start with your side hustles, right? Because they started with very small. It's just like a bunch of small number of folks who started this. And they learned from their mistakes quietly and grew patiently. The greatest lesson often comes from the most hardest setbacks. Our startup culture needs to normalize failure, which is what we don't appreciate. Media do not talk about much of the failures, and when failures are often talked about, you're termed as a failed person in your life, which is not the case, because life doesn't end and a failure doesn't define your life. That's extremely important to remember. So if you have failed at any point of stage, learn from those failures. If you're building something, try and understand why did it fail so that you can do better in your life. So start normalizing failure, and there is nothing shameful but to stepping stone towards the authentic success that you can have. Now I'm going to talk about the last, the most important thing, which is perhaps it's time for India to move beyond unicorns. If we could pick up a new mythical creature that symbolizes the true business excellence, what would that be, right? Imagine Phoenix, right? It's rebirth from failure, resilient, adaptable, sustainable, longevity, or perhaps the Vita, the wise, powerful white elephant from our own mythological, symbolizing grounded wisdom and something that's sturdy, progressing, at the same time nurturing, right? So we need to start symbolizing all of these authentic balanced growth towards the reckless valuations that we need to stop chasing and start focusing on creating value. So, my dear friends, unicorns can sometimes create burnouts, nightmares, but beyond unicorns, there is a richer, deeper reality, a landscape filled with camels, zebras, phoenixes, elephants. So, your companies measure success in sustainability, what impact you're creating, the human well being, long term resilience. So, startups enrich societies, startups that outlast hype cycles, and startups that can care deeply about the world that they leave behind. India, with its energy, talent, and spirit, can pioneer this entire entrepreneurial vision. So today, let's commit to celebrating not just valuations, but values, not just growth, but meaningful growth, and beyond unicorns, the true magic awaits.